On the Music God, CJ Plain. You're listening to the Noize Report. You know what we do here? We laugh, we have fun, we interview cool and interesting people, or pretty much anyone else that I can con into coming on this shit show that I call a podcast. Um, Today's victims over there, here, there, wherever you see them on your screen or hear them on your audio are two of the gentlemen from a great new band called, well, newer-ish band called Midnight Vice. They're going to introduce themselves, give you a little bit of background, and we're just going to talk about, well, whatever. How are you guys today?
Doing good, man.
Yeah.
I'm Tyler. I'm the lead vocals for Midnight Vice.
And I'm Sam. I do lead guitar, Midnight Vice.
Beautiful. Introduce quickly the other two members who are not present, but
Well, we actually have three now.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
We have a
Well,
second
cool.
guitar player. Yeah, so the other two members, or the other three members, is Dennis O'Sullivan on drums, Lakota Stafford on bass, and Dakota Rogers is our new second guitar player.
We have Lakota and Dakota.
Shit's
Nice.
confusing.
Yeah.
My oldest son's name is Dakota.
There you go.
Dakota
So,
with a D or Dakota with a T?
D.
Oh, yeah, that's
Wow.
the Dakota we got too.
Yeah, my his mother wanted to name him Cody, and I was like, yeah, not,
No.
you know.
No.
It was too like Bayside high for me. Like it was like
Yeah. No offense to
just
any
got
Codys out there.
no, I'm just like I heard Cody and I was just like
Disney Channel.
I got this picture of like the turtleneck wearing preppy type, like the Zach Morris type.
Yeah.
And was like, yeah, that will never be my kid. And
Fair enough.
she's like, would you have another suggestion? And I was like, okay, how about Dakota? Like, just, you know.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, that'll work. And I was like, great, cool. Let's go with that, because
Yeah.
it was close to what she wanted, but more rugged sounding, I guess. And
Compromise.
Yeah, there you go.
oh, come on, stupid phone. So, you guys have an awesome new EP
Yes.
that is titled self-titled, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Talk
Kinda
about
new.
that. It's a really great EP. I hear so many different bands in this. Like you guys like sort of just wore your influences on your sleeve with this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it
Who'd
was.
you get from it?
I hear Halloween. I hear King Diamond and Merciful Fate. I hear Sabotage. I hear like a lot of the Tampa Bay stuff.
I think that's the closest probably list uh of like influences that anybody's gotten.
Yeah.
People say bands that we do not listen to those guys.
Yeah,
Nope.
like
Yeah.
I mean the Sabotage is obvious. Vocally, there's some King Diamond,
Yeah.
not quite as piercing as
Yeah.
him, but that Merciful Fate style's in there. Little bit of Venom, little bit of Halloween, and that sort of area of bands that
Yeah.
um, I had a band in the '90s. We played with a ton of the Tampa Bay bands like Morbid Angel, Malevolent Creation.
Yeah.
We played with a bunch of Atheists. We played a bunch of shows with the Atheist guys. I know they're actually a little south of Tampa,
Or
but
Sarasota.
Kelly, do what?
They're Sarasota, which is where
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Sarasota.
Yeah,
Actually,
Kelly's one of the nicest guys you'll ever
I got to
meet.
meet Kelly Shaper for the first time actually at a George Lynch gig, and he was
That's
such
a
a
weird place to meet Kelly.
yeah. Well, he had a project after Atheist.
Yeah.
I believe it was called Neurotica, and
Yeah.
I think that he was playing with George Lynch during that era. So he kind
Okay.
of he knew George Lynch, and I think that he was trying to link up with George. But I ran into him and I recognized him, and him and I talked, and he's just a super sweet dude. He's really
Yeah,
nice,
he's one of the
very down
nicest,
to earth.
genuine guys you'll ever meet, which was weird because during that era, it was a 50-50 thing. Like some of the guys would be completely
Yeah.
like Kelly, and then the other half were like fucking Glenn from DSI,
Yeah.
where they're so
Arrogant.
yeah. Like I would run Glenn over with a car, given half a fucking chance. Like that little bastard spit on me. We had a disagreement, and he spit on me.
You're kidding.
And
No way.
yeah, and that to me, like, look, you could fight me, insult me, whatever. I will just take
That's
it.
like one of the worst things you can do to somebody.
Yeah, but if you
Yeah,
spit on me, I am beating your ass until I can't raise my fucking arms.
yeah, dude.
And he's a tiny little prick. Like he's only like 5'4", 5'5".
Are we name
When he
dropping in this
spit on
podcast
me,
right now? Are we name dropping in here?
dude,
Let's
I've
be careful. Sam's
long
only 4'6",
I
so
want to call you.
no, dude, like it's well known with me that there are two people that I have a fucking burning hatred of. Glenn is one, and the other is Wes Scantlin from Puddle of Mud. Glenn, seriously, dude, like I will fight fucking Glenn if I ever had the chance, bro. Like when that little bastard spit on me, I was just literally like, "You just fucking spit on me, bro." And my whole band grabbed me because they knew I was going to jail if I got a hold of him. So it was like it was literally at Milwaukee Metal Fest is where it happened in '92.
Yeah.
Um,
oh man, that's
it
crazy.
was fucking ridiculous. Anyways, great EP. Talk about the EP because it's again totally off track. These are really great songs, man. They're solid. Like guitar, vocals,
Yeah, man,
bass,
it was a great time.
everything.
It was a great time recording it. I mean, the songs kind of came together naturally. I mean, we're still young guys, but I was
Right.
really, I think I hadn't matured into like I don't know what you call it, like I hadn't come out of my shell completely as a player yet. And I think we were all in that boat. Uh,
Hmm.
and I think we were all kind of figuring it out with each other finally in this group, because I
Yeah.
had been in a bunch of bands before, and I know he had some experience playing some stuff before, but so the other guys in the band as well. And I feel like all of us, not only as like a band, but as individuals, like really came into our own, and the songs just came out naturally. Like when you start a band, you're like, I guess we'll start
Yeah.
writing and see what happens. Like now we have a lot more of like a direction of how we want to sound, but at the time it was more like
Yeah.
let's just we kind of want to do this thing. Let's cobble it together and see what happens. And we had a couple of different instances where we tried to record the EP. So like the one that you hear is like our third attempt. You know what I mean? So it was a long process, and I think for being new guys, we did a pretty good job at not
Yeah.
only fulfilling the vision but doing the marketing and getting everything right to really push us forward.
Yeah, I
I
think I
mean,
think Sam's exactly right on that. We were all pretty green. We were all super green musicians. I don't think that we had really had experiences in with being, in professional bands ever. I mean, we were all in bands prior, but we were all
right.
in like bands that did not really get to the extent of, you know, playing legitimate gigs and going to legitimate studios. I mean,
Right.
some of us have recorded before and stuff, but like I had never gotten that far. That was that EP was the first time I was ever in a studio, you know.
Nice.
But even after that, just like getting in touch with promoters and getting consistently booked and playing shows with bands that we look up to, like those were like new grounds that we had all conquered together.
Yeah.
So like that was really cool. So in a way, it was kind of like five virgins that just got laid all at the same time, which was kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good time, man. We had a blast doing that EP, and we're
It's a
really proud
different
of it.
experience going into the studio. Like I played for almost 9 years in bands before I ever made it to the studio.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating and nerve-wracking going from just sort of walking out on stage and just being sort of the anarchist on stage, being
Mhm.
as loud and aggressive as possible, to
Yeah.
Yeah.
where you're in the studio and you're in this controlled space and you have to like
Yeah,
Okay,
studio as a
everything's
whole.
on time, everything's on meter, and it's like,
Luckily for us, like I'm not saying that I was controlling any of the studio really, but it was like
right,
I had already been to studios a few times, and I definitely knew some of the ways that I did not want to do things. So
right,
that definitely helped, at least on my end for me personally, because there is really easy to waste time in there, and
yeah, like,
yeah, and it costs a lot, especially if you want a good sounding record. You know,
yeah,
you want to have everything ready to go. You know what I mean? And we did a good job. We did a pretty good job of that.
Yeah, and like you said, the studio is a whole nother animal versus playing
yeah,
live. It's a lot. It's a lot more focused on precision,
yeah,
Yeah.
and making sure that you're laying the tracks down right and you're super thorough with it. And like you're in the studio and you just like that shit will make you hate your own songs.
Yeah, I mean, you're really under a microscope, and
Yeah.
yeah,
you really get to know if you suck or not.
Yeah, like yeah, not only do you hate hearing your own song over and over and over again, it almost has you wondering if you're even good. And you're
Yeah,
like, should I even be doing this?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but yeah,
We,
I mean, if but that's I think that that's what it takes to make a good record. I think you have to be
yeah,
nitpicky. I think that there are bands that are better than their records because they don't spend the necessary amount of time
yeah,
in the studio that they should. There's bands that like I thought sucked, and then I see them live and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, these guys are
Well,
amazing."
there's also an unhealthy amount of that like it's rock and roll, man, whatever attitude, and then you get records that sound kind of crusty. You know what I mean? When they could sound better. I'm not saying that anybody should doctor their record to a point where
no,
it's
it's,
that you can't recognize it anymore. But you know, that's your piece to give to the world. You should make it as pretty as possible. You know?
I have long been a proponent that some bands are just not built for the studio. Some bands are strictly built for the stage.
Yeah,
There are bands, probably a bad example, but the Grateful Dead, for example, to listen to a Grateful Dead record is like watching paint dry.
yeah, it's
But
awful.
if you see them live, they were one of the most incredible live bands
Yeah, they're
that
pretty
you
gnarly
could ever
live.
see. The way they could improvise back and forth. And I had an ex-girlfriend. She was some massive Deadhead. Let's go see the Grateful Dead. Now, I had only heard the Grateful Dead on record. And I was like, yeah, no. And she's like, you'll love them. And I'm like, no, the Dead are fucking terrible. Then I got drugged to the show and I was blown away by how great they were on stage, and it was like,
The
you
difference is
just,
ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, like sometimes you can't truly capture a band's energy. Um,
I kind of this is a hot take, but I kind of feel that way about Hendrix, and I got him tattooed on my arm over
yeah,
here.
yeah.
But like I'll
No,
listen to his
Hendrix,
records, and I love his records too. But like then I hear like the live stuff, and I'm like, okay, he's really shining on his
yeah.
live.
Gary Moore was another one.
Yeah,
Gary was good on record, but hearing Gary on record and seeing Gary live, there was no comparison.
yeah, I'd
Like
say the same about
Gary would
Stevie too.
literally try to blow your face off
Yeah,
live. Like he was just a fucking animal on stage, man. And I mean, I've got an eyebrow that has never grown incorrectly after seeing Gary live because fucking just melted the eyebrow off your
oh
face, you
yeah,
know. Um, and there's artists like that. You don't capture the energy, the spirit of what they do. Um, Stevie Ray Vaughan was one.
yeah. I was gonna say,
Stevie Ray could play in a way that he was good on record, but it was nothing compared to seeing him live. And
yeah,
um, I think Sabotage to a certain point as well. Like they're good on record. I mean, they're big bombastic records.
yeah. They're
But to
local
see
too.
them live,
I graduated from the same high school they all graduated from.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um, I think when they transition from Sabotage to TSO, sort of with Paul kind of doing that,
mhm.
um, a lot of people I think were shocked by it, and I wasn't really because I always pictured them that way.
Yeah,
Like when they started doing Edge of Thorns and then they did Siriavo, that was always the natural evolution for them. Is
yeah,
I pictured them doing like a large Broadway type of show,
yeah.
with orchestra and um I didn't picture them doing it as a Christmas element, but I totally, um, when I listen to like turn when the lights go out, I can't even think of the name of the fucking song now. The one that's at the end of Gutter
Yeah,
Ballet.
other guy, yeah.
Um, but I picture that just sort of like the video, just him on the stage with his broken down piano and the,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's John is a genius for what he does, and Zach. I give a lot of credit to Zach because Zach had such a massive challenge walking into
Yeah,
that band
he did.
to
Yeah.
follow John. That couldn't have been an easy um thing.
No,
So
but
uh
I like his voice too, and I'm kind of glad
yeah,
that I'm glad they chose somebody who was so different. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I think the Zach stuff, and this is I don't know who if this is agreed upon, but like I feel like I hear a lot of flack about the era with Zach in it, and I and I
Oh,
and I'll be honest, like
I love it.
I don't listen to that era as much. I do have a few song saves and stuff, especially from like Edge of Thorns. That's a strong album. But man, he's good. He's so good, and that
Yeah.
stuff's really solid too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but it's really solid all
Oh,
the way up
it's
until TSO.
I love it. Like Magellan's Wake is one of my
Great one.
favorite records, man. The way they did that record with the vocals, it's almost like Queen. They just layered vocals on top of vocals with, and I mean, it's just so insane to listen to that. It's like I said, it's like a Broadway play. It's like
Yeah,
listening to Cats or
I
or
listened to the I listened to Follow Me off of Edge
yeah,
of Thorns a lot. That one plays
yeah.
constantly. Yeah,
Um. So for your guys' record, obviously you did the Sabotage
yeah.
cover.
Yes.
What made you choose that particular song? Because
Um, well, it's kind of funny because when we had initially recorded the EP, we had always said that we wanted to do a cover,
mhm,
and we were just playing so many covers at that time because we weren't able to fill a time slot for a set. So because we had only had a handful of songs written, so we would do like half originals, half covers, you know. So we kind of had a hard time agreeing on a cover. And then by the time that we had
I'm
gotten
sorry.
by the
Go
time
ahead.
we had gotten to the end of the EP, we were like, fuck it, we're not doing a cover because we could not come to an agreement on one. And then the EP was done. The EP was recorded, mixed, mastered, and out on streaming platforms. It was done, and we had already secured a record deal with Fireflash. And our good buddy Chris had just opened a studio, and he asked us to come by his studio, and he's like, "Hey, come record a single. I'll do it for you guys free of charge." He like just such a nice gesture that he offered us. And I kind of like was like, I don't know if we can do that because now we have a contract with the record label, so it's not like we can just go and drop a single, right?
Mhm.
So we kind of seized that opportunity to do the cover that we never did. And I think our heads were a little more clear at that point in time. And I think that we had a lot of, I mean, Sabotage was probably the band that we had the most covers of, oddly enough. So we were doing Strange Wings, we were doing Hall of the Mountain King, and we were doing White Witch.
At different times.
Yeah, I mean, not consecutively. We weren't playing like three
Right.
Sabotage songs in a row at a gig, but and it made sense because we're a Florida band. Sabotage is a Florida band. It kind of felt like
Right.
we're carrying the flag a little bit. That was the main thing that really made us decide on Sabotage. And Hall of the Mountain King is just such a classic song that it's almost kind of blatant to cover
Yeah.
that. And with Strange Wings, we had Mysteria on the EP, so I didn't really want to do another power ballad per se.
Right.
And with White Witch, that was just the golden goose because it was the structure of the song it fits right in with the rest of our songs on the EP.
Yeah,
So
it carries the spirit of like the vibe we're
Yeah,
going for
the
too.
flow is consistent, so that was why we decided to do White Witch.
Yeah, because what I found most interesting about that choice of that is it wasn't the obvious choice. A
Yeah,
lot of bands would have gone with 24 Hours Ago or Doors of the Dark
Yeah.
or Strange Wings or something that was more obvious.
Well, I
And
think we kind of like the idea of somebody hearing maybe later down the line hearing that song and then being like, "Man, I love that song from Midnight Vice," and then later figuring out, "Oh, that's a cover," because that
yeah.
happens to
yeah,
us all the
That
time.
that was always my favorite thing, like with like an obvious one is like Smoking in the Boys Room with Motley Crue.
right.
Like I didn't know that was a fucking
Or
cover.
like
And I
Ride
was
Like
like,
the
yeah,
Wind
yeah, or yeah, oh
from
yeah, like
Saxon.
Saxon did a Christopher Cross cover, or
Yeah.
Quiet Riot, Come On Feel the Noise, just shit like that, like a Slade song, and like you don't when
I
you're
have
new to the music like that, you don't know, and I think that was kind of what we were shooting for with White Witch.
I
So
have gotten in so much trouble over the years because I have long called Quiet Riot that I've long called them the world's greatest Slade tribute band. And people are like, what do you call them that? Well, because three of their biggest songs were Slade covers.
Yeah.
yeah,
So, it's like, you know,
that is
I don't
pretty
think,
crazy.
yeah, and I don't think Kevin did it intentionally, but if you listen to Kevin's vocals and Nadi's vocals,
Yeah,
they're so fucking similar. Like they just, I
yeah,
think at some point they realized it and they probably just leaned into it
yeah.
Yeah.
because what else can you do?
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like when you're airborne and people say, well, you sound like AC/DC.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you do. What do? You shy away from it or you lean into it. And sometimes you just got to lean into it and be what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
you are what you are. You
I kind of like a Greta Van Fleet type deal. I don't know. I don't particularly care for bands like that.
Yeah. I think, and yeah, I
I think
think,
it's one thing to have your similarities, or if you're tied to, whatever legendary band, but I think that the act of just straight up
so
picking up where another band left off
so
with
here's
their
the
exact sound and their exact style, that is a little that gets a little controversial for me. I don't care for
so
bands.
if I feel like if I listen to your band and I can call out your influences immediately, like not necessarily like, oh, this is kind of Judas Priesty, but if I'm like, oh, this is Judas Priest and somebody else, and then it's
right.
like, and then it is that, I'm like, it just kind of turns me off.
Yeah.
I'm the
So
same.
here's the funny thing about Greta Van Fleet. Um, I went to high school with her dad.
Okay.
Tons of parties with them. Literally, we he, he was known to us as Doug the guitar guy because everywhere he went, he had his guitar over his shoulder. Like
Yeah.
he had a Jackson guitar and he carried it everywhere to school. He had it in gym class. That thing never left his back. He was actually not even a fan of Zeppelin. He was a fan of Triumph. He's a huge Rick Emmett
I love Triumph.
disciple. So when these kids were coming up, they didn't even listen to Zeppelin. They literally were brought up on blues music and like Triumph. They were brought up on like Bob Seger. So the fact that they ended up with that sound is kind of funny because it's one of the bands that Doug hated because it was played so much at parties as we were growing up that he didn't
Yeah,
like them. He was known for if somebody put a Zeppelin record on, he would take it off and put on Triumph. He would put on Foghat. He would put on like fucking something different.
Yeah.
And it was
right.
normally something Canadian, which was weird because we lived in Michigan. And it was like, dude, how do you have like 500 fucking records by Canadian bands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Backman Turner Overdrive. I mean, he had this massive collection of fucking records from Canada. So when I hear people mention Greta Van Fleet and Zeppelin, I just laugh because they literally were not brought up on Zeppelin at all. Like I've known these kids since they were fucking 2 years old.
Well, dude, we get in a way I get it because we get comparisons that I'm like I don't even understand. Like we get the Enforcer comparison constantly, and
I've
like
never heard Enforcer, so I don't know. Um, I did I did find it cool that you guys mentioned White Wizard, um,
yeah,
because my friend Eric played in White Wizard for.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm good friends with Kluber, so that was kind of cool to see them mentioned because. And Tail Gunner is another band that was mentioned in the bio, and I really love those guys. Those guys are a lot of fun and super nice
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
So, um, in this new, that's going to be the next line of questioning. In this new, I guess, era of bands, are there bands that you guys find yourself sort of drawn to musically that maybe are in the same genre or maybe not in the same genre that you love as a fan or somebody that inspires you as a musician, as a songwriter? Somebody you hear that says, "Damn, I want to learn to play like that," or "I want to learn some of his riffs or
Yeah.
some
I
of
mean,
whatever."
I think that the whole, at least in my perspective, the whole reason that I even wanted to do Midnight Vice was because there was a lot of bands at that time that were doing this nostalgic kind of 80s sound. So
Hmm.
like Enforcer was one, you know what I mean? That's what the band was named after, you know what I mean? So we'll never deny that or anything like that, you know. So Enforcer, Skullfist, White Wizard, Cauldron, those were all bands that were out,
and for
probably, you know, 5 to 10 years ago,
like I want a Stallion. That's a big one for me. I like
Stallion's another
Stallion a
one.
lot. Yeah.
I get
Wild
where the
Stallions.
Yeah, dude, I get where the Greta Van Fleet dad is coming from because those Canadians make some good fucking music, man.
Yeah, it's
Ambush.
Ambush is
I
sick.
like Ambush a
Yeah,
lot.
I think they're from Sweden.
great. Um, I have such an eclectic taste in music. It's really hard for me to kind of hone in sometimes
Yeah,
because my brain is my brain's sort of like a squirrel on crack. Like 1 minute I'm listening to Blue October, then I'm listening to like Gorilla Nems, then I'm listening to Priest or Pink Floyd or Prince or Bob Marley, and I jump all over the place. So people, um, are kind of like, dude, you need to like take medicine or something because it's not natural for you to, um,
Hey,
and
well,
people,
we get into those we get into those eras too. I was in a Leonard Skinner tribute band for a while.
nice.
Yeah, so we
Oh,
get into
Skinner.
that. And he did a David Bowie tribute. He was David Bowie
shut the fuck
for
up.
a while.
That's not true. No, that's not true.
He just doesn't like to. It's no big deal. He just doesn't like. You,
Hey,
you'll
Bowie
find pictures. I'll send you pictures of it. It's fine.
was Bowie, man.
But
Like,
we're both
um,
like we're both like really big Thin Lizzy fans.
oh,
We like.
I love Thin Lizzy.
Yeah, Thin Lizzy's a great band, and I didn't appreciate them as much when I was younger, but like I love that band.
There are bands like that. I grew up, my dad is a massive Bob Seger fan. He
I
will
love
fight you.
Yeah.
My dad will fight you over Bob Seger. Like, my dad's been a truck driver for 54 years. If you were to walk up to my dad and say, Bob Seger is an asshole, he will fist fight you over that. Like,
You know which one we got into this year was Bad Company. The
Yeah,
Bad Company
dude, we really like.
smacked.
Yeah,
Bad Company is another band that, at the time growing up, he played Bad Company as much as he played Bob Seger. And I just was kind of indifferent to Bad Company. I was kind of like, they weren't terrible, but they weren't really somebody that I would choose to put on. And I hear them now, I hear the old songs and hear Paul Rogers and think, God, what an incredible fucking singer. And I guess
Same.
my brain just wasn't in the place at that time to
Yeah,
realize what I was hearing.
dude,
Now,
he's
I
still
was
good.
always
He's
more,
still good.
yeah,
It's
but I
crazy.
was I was more like a Queen fan. I love big bombastic music. I
Yeah.
love Prince and Queen and Sabotage for the very reason of you never really know what you're going to get from 1 minute to the next.
Yeah.
You know, it might be thrash, it might be pop, it might be Broadway, it might be like, you know, Freddie just did whatever the fuck Freddie wanted to do.
Yeah.
And there was no telling him different. And that's what I love is I love that just outside the box of you never know what you're gonna get, man. It's just
Yeah. 100%.
um so I'm drawn to bands that Blind Guardian, you know, I love Blind Guardian because they're big and bombastic and have that grandiose Keeper of the Seven Keys, one of my
Yeah.
favorite sets of records because from 1 minute to the next you have, you know, Dr. Stein and then you have I Want Out, but then you have Keeper of the Keys, which is this massive, you know, 14-minute, 17-minute song that
Mhm.
um Opeth is another one that you know, from 1 minute to the next. It might be death metal, might be jazz, might be whatever.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
um
think it's cool to have a diverse taste in music too, you know, because I mean,
yeah,
we all like him. I know him and I both, and a lot of the other guys in the band too. Like we all listen to different genres and stuff too. Like
right.
I really like The Cure. I really like the Smiths, bands
Oh
like
my
that,
God, I
you
love the
know.
Cure.
And yeah, man, I love different genres like that.
We get
And
into
he's
grunge.
got a little bit of Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
Mother Love Bone.
Stone Temple Pilots I'll listen to.
I check
Yeah,
out after Alice in Chains, but
Yeah. Yeah. Southern
I
rock. I like a lot of Southern rock bands. I listen to a lot of Allman Brothers and
that's what I grew up on. You
yeah.
know, Dad being the truck driver, growing up in the front seat, I heard, you know, Bob Seger, Bad Company, Blackfoot. I heard more Blackfoot
I
than
love
yeah.
Blackfoot. Molly
Highway
Hatchet.
Song. I still there are very few songs that I can sing from memory because of my brain injury, but Highway Song is my dad's favorite song, and it's one of three songs that I can still sing
It's one of my
word
karaoke
for
songs.
word from memory.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Charlie Daniels, we heard a ton of Jerry
Yeah.
Reed. We listened to a ton of
Jerry
Jerry
Reed.
Reed. Got to meet Jerry Reed, funniest, nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Hank
Um,
Williams.
yeah, see, that was my grandpa. My grandpa's very much the old school country guy, and after I hit a point where I had to go to school because dad drove over the road, it was kind of like, I go, hey, you're staying with your grandpa, you know, because can't leave you home alone, but I got to be out on the road. So you're staying with your grandpa. And my grandpa, who is 98 now, you know, he had the old clock radio AM, and it was Hank Snow, Farron Young, Hank Sr., Red Sovine, um, Johnny Horton,
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of stuff, you know, Dave Dudley, that kind of shit. So, um, I've grown up on all these different styles of music, and I just have a passion for it. That you know, that's why I love doing this because it's always cool to meet new bands and new artists and hear where they're coming from and
Hmm.
what their influences are. Um, where do people find you guys? Where do people find the record? Any upcoming shows you have? Any cool
uh,
merch you might
yeah,
have?
best way to keep up with us through any of our social media, you can find us on Facebook as Midnight Vice. Instagram is Midnight Vice Official. Our record is available in both vinyl and CD on RPM Roar's website. They have a US website and they have a European website.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
go buy those so that we can have money to pay for the next record.
Yeah. Do you guys have merch? I mean,
Yeah,
is there?
we
This
have
is my cash
well,
ad, by the way. No, I was-
we have
No, I mean that's throw it up there, man. I mean,
no,
no,
I'm just messing.
you never know,
we've got a
man.
Bandcamp. It's a little dry right now as far as merchandise, but we're getting ready to put a ginormous merch order in. We just got a bunch of new T-shirt designs back from our graphic designer, and we're gonna put those in at some point this month, and then really gonna try and start pumping out merch and stuff. As far as gigs that we've got coming up, we've got we're kind of pretty much just staying in Florida for now. 2025 is our wood shedding year, so we're working on the record, writing and recording and whatnot. So
What's our next ones?
we've got we're doing a run with Void, another great new wave '80s thrash band. That'll be the end of May going into early June. Just a short little Florida run, like 4 or 5 dates. Playing with LA Guns May 11th.
Nice.
And
Um,
XYZ.
and
I'll be
XYZ.
playing that. I'll be playing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's an XYZ now. And we've got Anvil on April 30th. We're playing with Anvil in Tampa.
Oh, I love those guys, dude.
You know, sometimes as a band, you get stuck with other bands that make no sense. Um, serious. There was a show in '96 that we got called for. There was blizzard outside, and none of the bands, the band that was supposed to open for the headliner, bowed out. I needed a band, and they called us because we were, we'll play anywhere, anytime. Just give us beer money. So we drive through this blizzard. We get to Harpo's in Detroit, and we get in there, and it's like, who are we opening for, anyways? And they're like, Babylon AD.
Oh.
The glam band.
You know we're a death metal band, right?
Yeah.
We just opened for Bort Nagar and Morbid Angel, right? He's like, I don't give a shit, dude. I just need a band to play.
Yeah.
And we went up on stage, and their crowd fucking hated us. They had no fucking
Well,
idea.
we have sets that are like a little bit more catered to
Right.
like a maybe more like a glam centric crowd. So like when we did the Lynch Mob show, we did a lot more covers that we thought would be friendly to that audience. We did the Trooper
Right.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that. We did some riot song. So we have it like a little more catered. Like there's definitely shows we have where we play a little more balls to the wall, and then we'll do like Alice in Hell, for instance, and like
Yeah.
really kick it up. So we have sets that are catered.
We do fine tune our set. I
Yeah.
mean, like the other thing too is that we've written new songs at this point. Songs that you can't hear unless you come and see us live. But even those are there's some dynamics there. Some songs are a little lighter, some songs are a little heavier. So we kind of fine tune our set to whoever it is that we're playing with, because I think that we get two different crowds. We've got our local like metalhead crowd that we kind of appease to, but when we're playing with bands like LA Guns and Lynch Mob
Right.
and all, we're playing for an older crowd. So
Right.
we kind of keep the set a little bit mellower, just to keep the promoters happy. We want the audience to be happy, and the ultimate goal is for us to walk off stage and go over to that merch table and there's a line.
Yeah.
So we're not really against doing that, because at the end of the day, it's all stuff that we want to do anyway. We have a variety of glam influences. We like glam metal.
I'm a big glam guy.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you. Like
I love glam. I love glam metal, glam rock.
Yeah, that's my shit.
The whole thing was, the band at the time I was playing in was a death metal band called Psychotic Therapy.
Yeah, that's a little different.
We had nothing like that. Like the closest we had to a mainstream song, we had this really down-tuned, ballsy version of Electric Funeral by Black Sabbath.
Mhm.
That was like, and then we played around with another like really dark version of Head on the Door by The Cure. Those were like the only two songs we had that were mainstream. Everything else was literally in the vein of like, one of the bands that we were heavily trying to imitate was Carcass with their Heartwork record.
Yeah.
So we a lot of times people would say, that song sounds like Heartwork. That song sounds like Embryonic. That song sounds like, yeah, because that's who we were ripping off, basically. We were unapologetic about it. Like, I heard the bass riff from Heartwork, and I was like, yeah, I wrote a song called Hate Artist, because it was just, I love that fucking bass riff. And I was like, you know what? I'm using that. I just, and we didn't have anything like that. We just got up there, we played our ass off. Everyone hated us. We went off stage, promoter come back and said, okay, well, singer's not here because he got trapped in New York. There's no planes. They're taking a limo back. They're taking a limo from New York to Detroit. How long is that going to take? Well, they're going to go through Canada. Okay, so they're taking a limo from New York to Detroit through Canada in the middle of a blizzard. Like nothing good can come of this.
Yeah.
They finally got there, but we played like 3 sets that night that we were just making bullshit up on the spot basically. And
Yeah.
we played the last set. We were mostly just playing fucking music. Like
Yeah.
we were jamming at that fucking point, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
And we hated it, but we got paid. I guess that's all that matters at the end of the day. But
Yeah, man.
guys, thanks for coming on here. This is Midnight Vice. Check them out, Bandcamp, all the places you heard them. Really great record. It's 7 songs, right? If I remember correctly.
Yep, 7 songs.
7 songs. Strike in the Night, Spellcaster, Excalibur, Baptized by Fire, Mysteria, Deliverance of Steel, and the White Witch cover from Sabotage. Really great record, really great EP. Can't wait to hear a full record in the future. And if you guys ever get up near or around Detroit, I would love to come to a show and see you guys live and
Absolutely, man. We'll try and
buy
get
you
up one
beer,
of these
Coke,
days.
whatever your drink of preference is. I know not everybody drinks beer, not everybody drinks Coke, but you got to be
we've
politically correct. So
we've been known to make some beers disappear.
Yeah.
yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Not always.
as always,
We've learned our lesson. It's cool.
as always, you know how we end it. Be well, treat each other with kindness, and remember that music heals.